Hi, hello, and welcome back. Don't you think words are the building blocks of your thoughts? The more words you know, the better you can communicate. Now, this range of words or variety of words or collection of words that one uses in a language is what we call as vocabulary. If you're somebody who has rich vocabulary, you can communicate effectively and interestingly. Let me tell you. Now, I go to a restaurant, I have food, and then I say, the food was good. Then I go to watch a movie, and then I say, the movie was good. Now, consider another plot. I go to the restaurant, I have food, and then I say, the food was delicious. Then I go for a movie, and then I say that the movie was fantastic. Now, basically, if you look at it, good, fantastic, delicious, all mean the same, more or less the same. So you might think, what is the need for using these multiple words? The listener should just understand the idea what you're trying to convey. Okay, when you think it from a day-to-day or daily perspective, that is fine. But imagine a scenario when the kind of vocabulary that you use can impress somebody and can help you in earning good scores. Wouldn't you give it a try? Definitely yes. Now, this video is all about how to use good vocabulary when it comes to IELTS Writing Task 1. As you know, your IELTS Writing Task 1 is evaluated or given score based on 4 band descriptors. Among those band descriptors, one is lexical resource. Now, this lexical resource is nothing but vocabulary. To attain a band score of 9, it is suggested or recommended that you need to use a wide range of vocabulary effectively and accurately. Now, let's see how we can do this. So, as you all know, in writing task 1, you're supposed to write or you need to write a report based on a pictorial data given to you. Now, by pictorial data, I mean that the information that is given as input to you based on which you need to write a report, that information can be in the form of a graph, a line graph, bar graph, or it can be in the form of a pie chart, table, maps, process diagrams. Now, in this video, we're going to focus on the vocabulary that can be used with graphs. To be very specific, that can be used with dynamic graphs. Now, what is the difference between static and dynamic? Now, if the information that is given to you does not mention any specific time period, or the information that is presented to you is from just one single time period, then we say it is static data. But if you're given data from more than one time period, then we say it as dynamic. I'll give an example. Now, the data given to you is in the form of a graph, and the graph shows the sales that happened in a shop in one specific year, for example, 2020. Now, in such a situation, will you be able to compare or say that whether the sales has increased or decreased or remained the same? No, because we have information only from one specific year. But at the same time, if you're provided with data from a previous year or previous years, you can compare and say that the sales has increased or decreased or it remained the same. That's what we call it as a dynamic chart. Now, in this video, we're going to specifically focus on the kind of words or the vocabulary that can be used along with this dynamic charts. And we're going to see what kind of words can be used with we will not be dealing with vocabulary that can be used with all kinds of charts. Specifically, we are going to look at the kind of words that can be used with tables, graphs, and pie charts. So you can see on the screen, a graph can be seen on the screen. Now, here I've plotted only just one value. You can see only one blue line here. But in the actual graph that you get for your test, you will be getting multiple lines, which represents multiple entities. Now, just for you to understand what you mean by this trend that I'm talking about, I've just plotted one value. So, as per this graph, it shows sales, which has happened across 10 years. And you can see the graph going up, then again up. It has reached a highest point, coming down, again going up. So this is how a line graph would be. Now, based on how the movement in the graph is we can classify the changes or trends into 6 groups. I'll show you. Whether it is an increasing trend or it is a decreasing trend, peak, fluctuating, stable or plateau. I'll show you what all these means, what is increasing, decreasing, peak, fluctuating, stable and plateau is. Now, if the value of this entity has increased, has gone up in the graph, then this we can call it as an increasing trend, as it is shown here, increasing. This is also increasing trend. And after reaching a specific point, if it has come down, then that point we call it as peak. That is, the value peaked or was highest at this point and then it came down. Now this line which comes down, we can say it as a decreasing trend. For instance, that is in the time period from year 1 to year 3, we can say this is an increasing trend. Now again from year 3 to year 4, again this is an increasing trend, and at year 4 it has peaked. Now from year 4 to year 5, the line has come down, so it's a decreasing trend. Then another situation is, if you look at this side of the graph, you can see a straight line. Then we say it is stable. Now this part where it first increases slightly and then it becomes stable, this we say it as a plateau. Then like if there is a variation, that is if the line goes up, comes down, again goes up and comes down, then this we call it as fluctuation. So these are the different trends that you notice in this graph. Now when you get such trends, what kind of words we can use, that is what we are going to discuss in this video. And before that, along with using the words to describe the change, whether it is increasing, decreasing, stable or whatever it is, along with the words, if you're using another word to describe that change, that is if the change was very drastic or whether it was just a slight change, then we say that we use adjectives or adverbs with that change. For instance, if you're using an adjective with a change, we have to use the adjective first and then we have to say the change. I'll give you an example. If you say that there was a sharp increase, then we have to say the adjective first, that is sharp first, and then we have to say the noun, that is increase or rise or whatever it is. Now, if you're using it in the word form, then how it will be, if you have to say the verb first. You have to say that it rose sharply. Okay, that is how the sentence construction should come. If you are using adjective, the adjective should be placed before the trend or before the noun. If you are using the trend in the verb form, first say the verb form and then say the describing word. Now, these are some of the describing words, adjectives or adverbs that can be used. Now, I've put it as 3 sections based on the intensity of the change. If the intensity is severe, that is if the change is really huge, then we can go for words like sharply, dramatically, significantly. If the change was just on a moderate level, then we can say steadily, gradually, relatively, considerably. Now, by sharply, I'll give you an example. If the sales of a specific commodity was 5% in 1 year, and then it jumped to 25% in the next year, then we can say that there has been a sharp increase. But if the trend or if the increase in such a way that in 1 year it increased from 5 to 10, in the next year it increased from 10 to 15, and in the following year 15 to 20, then we say it as a gradual or steady increase. Now, if the change is not that noticeable or it's very less, then we can use describing words, adjectives or adverbs such as slightly, gently, marginally, and so on. Now, you understand that to describe these changes or trends, we have specific or we have a set of words that I'll be showing you now, and along with these words, to make it more clear, to make it more precise, you can use these adjectives or adverbs along with these words related to the trends. With examples, that will be more clear to you. First, let's start with the increasing trend. If the type of change is increasing, what are the verbs that we can use along with that? Verbs or nouns, what words can be used to show this increasing trend? The words that can be used are rose, increased, surged, grew, escalated. All of this we have mentioned in the past tense. That is, we are talking about, like, if we have to talk about an increase, of course it would have already been happened. So we'll be using all of these in the past forms. So rose, past tense of rise, increased, surged, grew, escalated. You can use it in the verb form. Also, you can use these words in the noun form. In that case, we'll be saying, instead of rose, we'll be saying a rise. Instead of increased, we'll say an increase, a surge, a growth, an escalation. That's how we put it. And apart from these verbs and nouns, we can also use this phrases to show the trend. We can say showed an upward trend. Something showed an upward trend. Instead of saying that it has increased or it has surged, we can say that it showed an upward trend. The sales showed an upward trend. I'll give you examples. If you're using the verb forms, like an example sentence construction is given here. Mobile phone subscriptions surged significantly during the period from 1995 to 2015. So here, to show the increasing trend, we have used the word surge and we have used it in the verb form. And to describe that, we have used the adverb also. To describe this verb surged, we have used the adverb significantly. How it has increased? Significantly. Now, just let's see a construction using the noun form. Mobile phone subscriptions witnessed a marginal escalation during the period from 1995 to 2015. Now, escalation means we have used the noun form and we have used this adjective marginal. Just to show a slight increase, we have used the word marginal. Okay. Now, using this phrase, we can construct the sentence like this. The proportion of land affected by overcultivation showed an upward trend, rising from 15% to 25% over the period. So here we have used the phrase showed an upward trend. I hope that's clear. Now we shall move to the next trend, that is the decreasing trend, and let's see what kind of words can be used to show the decreasing trend. With decreasing trend, these are the words that can be possibly used. If you're using it in the verb form, you can say decreased, dropped, declined, fell, diminished. Or if you're using in the noun form, we can say a decrease, a drop, a fall, a decline. And just like how we have used the phrase in the increasing trend, here also we can say showed a downward trend. Let's see a few sample sentence construction using these. Using the verb form. The volume of goods transported by road diminished from 80 million tons in 1990 to 60 million tons in 2020. Here the trend has been showed using the verb form, but here we have not used any adverb to describe that change. That's also fine, but it's always good if you can use, if you feel that you are able to notice a significant change, or a significant change can be something huge, or if there is a very minute change, if you're able to apply a word appropriately and accurately, please go for that. Then using the noun form, we can say it like there was a steady fall in train travel over the 2 decades. Steady fall. So this is the noun form and the adjective that has been used here is steady. Means a gradual fall. Okay, so we can say it using the phrase, we can say that the same downward trend can be written like this. The proportion of land affected by overcultivation showed a downward trend, falling from 25% to 50% over the period. Now moving on to those, so we have discussed increasing trend and decreasing trend and what kind of words can be used and how they can be used in the noun form, verb form as phrases, and what kind of, how we can use adjectives and adverbs along with these noun forms and verb forms. Now moving on to the next trend, that is peak. Peak, I already said that. When do we say peak? A value increases, reaches a maximum point and then comes down. So the verb that we can use here is peaked, of course. And if you are expressing it in the noun form, we say a peak. And if you're expressing it as a phrase, then we say reach a peak or reached a peak. I'll show you the sentence constructions. The sales peaked in 2017, reaching their highest point of 90 before experiencing a gradual decline in the following years. This is how the sentence construction can be. Now, if you're using it as a noun form, you can say that during the 10-year period, sales saw a peak in July 2015, hitting 120 units before dropping sharply in the subsequent months. So when you're using peak in both of these examples, they have said, it has been mentioned that at which point it reached the highest value, when did it peak, and then it is said that before experiencing a gradual decline. So it means that it has gone up, it reached the maximum point and then it came down. In this example also the same way, it has been expressed in the same way. During the 10-year period, sales saw a peak in July 2015, hitting 120 units before dropping sharply in the subsequent months. So you use the word peak when a value has increased, reached the maximum point and it immediately comes down. Now the next one, fluctuating. Fluctuating means it keeps on changing. It goes high, it comes down, again high and then again low. That is what we call it as fluctuating. Now the verbs that can be used are fluctuated, or you can say varied, because it keeps changing. So we can say it as varied, fluctuated. In the noun form we can say it as a fluctuation or a variation. Now if you are expressing it as a phrase, then we can say showed some fluctuation or showed some variation. Let's look at the examples. The sales of television fluctuated considerably between 2015 and 2020. So which means that it kept on changing. Now I said that it kept on changing. Now in an informal talk we can say so, but for an academic writing we should not be saying so. That is where we have to actually employ the usage of such vocabulary. Then using the noun form, a fluctuation, a variation. There was a noticeable fluctuation in sales throughout the decade. So here the noun form has been used. Then using the phrase form, the graph illustrates a period of significant fluctuation in sales, particularly in the first quarter of each year, whatever it is. So what you basically need to do is you need to try and bring in a variety of usages. You will have different entities to be described in the report. So don't follow the same kind of structuring or the same kind of words for all the entities. Just to try to bring in variety so that you are showcasing your vocabulary. Now, if the trend is stable, there hasn't been any change, it remained constant, then you can use the verb stabilized, or you can use the noun like a period of stability. You can use phrases like remain stable or remain constant, which means that there has been no change, a straight line graph. Let's look at the examples. In the verb form first, the sales of mobile phones stabilized at around 1.5 million units between 2018 and 2021 after experiencing sharp fluctuations. So how this graph would be? After experiencing fluctuations, the sale of mobile phones stabilized means then it would be a straight line. Okay, if the graph is in this form, you can go for this sentence construction. Then in the noun form, a period of stability in smartphones shipment was observed from 2016 to 2019, with figures remaining steady at approximately 500,000 units per quarter. So here also, if you are seeing a straight line over a time period, you can go for this usage, a period of stability. That is from 2016 to 2019, the line graph would be a straight line. If you're using the phrase, then the construction would be like, the demand for laptops remained constant over the decade, showing minimal variation around 2 million units annually. So here we have gone for the phrase usage. Now let's look at the next trend, plateau. Plateau, as I've mentioned initially from that initial graph, plateau means it increases and then it remains constant. This, if you see this kind of a formation in the graph, then we say that area as a plateau. The verb that can be used if you see a plateau in the graph is plateaued, and if you're using in the noun form, we say a plateau, or if you're using as a phrase, we can say reach a plateau, or we can say level off. It leveled off, or it flattened out. Are they interesting usages? Let's look at the examples. After a sharp increase, the sales of electronic gadgets plateaued at 1.5 million units in 2020 and remained unchanged for 3 years, which means that the sales would have reached 1.5 million after reaching 1.5 million in 2020. In 2020, the sales would have reached 1.5 million. Then after that, it remained the same, with unchanged for 3 years, which means until 2023, it would be the same. Okay. Now the usage in the noun form. The data shows a plateau in smartphone sales between 2018 and 2021 with no significant changes in the figures. So here between 2018 and 2021, it would be a straight line. So before that, the graph would be like this. Then we say it as a plateau. Then if we express it as a phrase, the demand for tablets flattened out in 2016. So in 2016, from 2016, the graph would be until 2016, it would be like this, and from 2016, it would be in this form. Then we say it as a plateau. So you can use phrases like flattened out, or as we have seen here, leveled off, or reached a plateau. Such interesting phrases can also be used. Impressive phrases. With that, we come to the end of this discussion, which was based on the vocabulary that can be used with graphs, the dynamic version. In our upcoming videos, we'll discuss vocabulary that can be used with maps and process diagrams. Hope this video was helpful and you would be applying this next time when you do your report writing. Thank you and stay tuned.
MedCity International Academy. Trusted hands forever.